And we are going to dive in to this ongoing discussion and spotlight on author Nicole Fleming. Nicole wrote the book My Escape: Born into a Dysfunctional Family. Last Monday, I shared a portion of the introduction to this book with you. And today we are going to dive in a little deeper. And I'm going to be reading an account from Nicole's family. She went into a great detail about her family history, and it really helps open up your eyes as a reader to understanding what the family dynamic was built upon that Nicole grew up in. And for many of us who have gone through traumatic experiences growing up, family history plays a huge role in that. So being able to really dissect where your family origins came from is extremely helpful if you're able to do it. I myself have some understanding about my family history, not nearly the depth that Nicole brings here, but it just helps. Knowing where your family came from helps you understand where it is today, put it that way. And it can really shed light on different intricacies about how your family became what it is today and why the experiences happened that you went through. I hope that makes sense. I know I'm kind of a little all over the map here. Before we get rolling too much further, though, I'm using a brand new software. It's called Restream, and so I'm able to actually engage with multiple audiences this way, and it also gives you a little bit nicer view, I think, and experience yourself. You are able to chat with me and leave your comments. So please leave your comments and share this video with others so that they can benefit from the information being shared here today. Along with going into Nicole's book, I also want to share some current events for you that will again help shed light on what is going on in Afghanistan and how women experience Afghanistan, both growing up and as adults. The family member that we're going to be learning about today from Nicole's book, Nicole refers to her as Morsel. And Morsel was her aunt. And education. Nicole was deprived in education because she was a girl, and Morsel was as well. I want to share some statistics with you, and I'm going to share a screen with you. This is from the Bush Center. And prior to the United States pulling out of Afghanistan, Afghan women and girls have made significant strides with the support of U.S. Agency for International Development and State Department funded programs. Before COVID-19, an estimated 3.5 million girls were in school, with 100,000 women enrolled in public and private universities. According to the Afghanistan Women Chamber of Commerce and Industry, over 1,000 female entrepreneurs had invested $77 million over the span of 18 years, creating 77,000 jobs. And women have run for elected office and served at various levels of government. These laudable achievements are at risk, both because of of the effects of COVID-19 and the uncertainties of the Afghan peace talks. This was written just prior to the United States pulling out and the Taliban take of Afghanistan. Where do these girls stand today? Here's a quote from a 15-year-old girl in Afghanistan from July of this year. As the fighting increases day by day, it's a concern that will go back in time. I get scared when I think about what will happen to my future, my goals, and my dreams for my future. A 14-year-old girl from Afghanistan. One day, the schools will close and the girls will no longer be allowed to come out of their homes. Maybe I will have to stop teaching. This is a 17-year-old girl in Afghanistan. Thinking about the future and all of our concerns makes me really worried and angry. And sometimes I cry out because of that. A 15-year-old girl in Afghanistan. These are quotes from rescue.org. I wanted to share those current statistics and current experiences and fears to kind of set the tone for what I'm going to read to you today out of Nicole's book. So this is from the second chapter of Nicole's book, My Escape, Born into a Dysfunctional Family. And this is the story of Morsel. Here we go. Morsel, the daughter, meaning a flower. She was my father's only sister and initially remained at home with her mother, Afsun. She was never sent or taken to or even enrolled in any school. The education authorities did not know she even existed. She was registered with her family physician, who did not pick up on Morsel's lack of education. He did not notice anything as being amiss. Kardar, my grandfather, he told his wife not to send Morsel, their daughter, to school because he believed by her going to school, she would be corrupted in her views and alter the way she thought as a Muslim. He did not want her to be westernized at all. He kept her under the radar because when she reached the age of 11, he had plans to send her to Afghanistan to be married. I'm going to read that again. He kept her under the radar because when she reached the age of 11, he had plans to send her to Afghanistan to be married. During this time, Kardar was flitting back and forth between Amsterdam, Germany, and the family home in London. My father, Jabrut, was in process of leaving home and took the decision that he would try and convince his mother to send Morsel to school to give her a chance at a better life. I can only imagine what abuse she endured throughout her childhood. Growing up in this home environment, being the only girl would have made it worse. Morsel did start school with the help of my father, who convinced his mother, Afsun, to send her to school without her husband's permission. Not surprisingly, Morsel found it hard to learn. In every class, she was far behind and made to feel stupid, which depressed her. She had never been taught a skill set by her mother and lacked social skills and awareness and general common sense. Kept hidden and sheltered, she was treated like a slave. One day, her father made a decision that sent her life into a downward spiral. Kardar put his earlier plan into action. He ordered her mother Afsun to send her to Afghanistan, as he had arranged with a family for her to marry a man called Taj, meaning authority or crown. He was 39 years her senior. Her husband-to-be was 39 years older than her, and she was still a child. When she heard the news, she was bitterly disappointed, but knew she had no choice. She was duly escorted to Afghanistan by another cousin who had been part of the marriage negotiations. The marriage took place without any of her family members present. She must have felt so scared and alone. She fell pregnant a few months later, which pleased both families greatly, but not Morsel herself. Kardar and Afsun decided the baby should be born in the UK, as it was safer healthcare system. The baby would also benefit from having a UK passport and rights of citizenship. They asked Taj's family to consider their request. Morsel was sent back to the UK at 7 months into the pregnancy to receive health care and make sure the baby was okay. Kardar and Afsun invited her husband Taj to join her in the UK for the birth, but the visa application he filed was refused. A few months later, a healthy baby girl was born. When the infant was 2 months old, Morsel was sent back to Afghanistan, as arranged by her parents, and fell pregnant again approximately 3 months later. Her mother again decided that having the baby in the UK was a good idea. Morsel was then aged 15, and the same process repeated. She returned to the UK to have a healthy baby girl, then went back to Afghanistan. Once again, within a few months, she fell pregnant. She was now barely 17, with 2 children and pregnant with her third. She was sent to the UK shortly before her due date. A few weeks later, a healthy girl was born, which displeased Taj's family, as they wanted a boy. This time, Morsel, a little bit older and wiser, refused to return to Afghanistan, stating to her mother that she'd had enough of the abuse by her husband, who had been raping, beating, and mentally torturing her since they were married. Afsun, her mother, was distraught at being disrespected. She told Morsel that she would be shaming the family and was responsible for giving her stress that could lead to her having a heart attack. She asked Morsel if that was what she wanted, for her mother to die because of her. Kardar was meanwhile away. When he learned that Morsel refused to return to her husband, he was furious and made plans to return to the UK to force her to go back to Afghanistan. Morsel was scared of her father. At that point, aware of his intention, she felt she had no choice but to run away. When she approached the authorities, they placed her in a program that protected battered women. After completion of a 1-year course, she was given her own flat. Beginning to feel lonely and isolated, she was struggling financially on her benefits and trying to raise the children all by herself. Stupidly, she contacted her abusive husband and invited him to come live with her in the UK. thinking naively that the marriage could work better in a different country. As in the UK, there were far less restrictions on her. She thought he would act differently towards her without feeling family pressure. She also felt that the children would be better off with a father and that he would provide financially. Taj's visa application this time was accepted, and he entered the country as a student to circumvent the whole process. He never did study. Instead, the violence and the abuse intensified. One night, after a furious assault on Morsel, Taj left in a rage and took the children out of the country, vowing that neither he nor the children would return to the UK. He was making all sorts of threats, sending her pictures and videos of himself abusing their children. Despite her pleas, Taj would not return them. In fact, Morsel was so upset and desperate, she traveled back to Afghanistan to find them, but they were not at Taj's family home. She searched everywhere without success. She returned to her family in London, despondent and totally at a loss. Taj contacted her via text message to inform her if she did not have another baby for him, that he would kill all the children and leave her with nothing. He demanded that the baby be a boy, and added that if they did not get back together, she would regret it for sure. She pleaded with her mother to appeal to Taj and his family to return the children back to her. Morsel repeated to her mother that she had been raped and abused by Taj throughout the marriage and that the children were not brought into the world by choice. She stated she wanted out of the marriage, but her mother simply did not agree or allow it. In fact, her own mother blamed her for everything that had happened. Meanwhile, Morsel contacted all of her brothers, begging them for help. They all told her the same thing, that everything was Morsel's fault, that she was bringing shame onto their family. She approached Jabrut, my father, and he was probably her closest brother, pleading for help. He told her he did not want to get involved and bring shame on the family, especially for his mother's sake. But as she kept pleading, he eventually changed his mind and rang his own father to discuss the matter regarding the abuse towards Morsel. And that, in his opinion, the children would be better off in London with Morsel, especially as they were all girls. Agreeing, Kardar gave my father permission to make contact. He rang Taj's brother, telling them that he and his father, Kardar, would be flying over to Afghanistan to sort things out and wanted to meet with Taj and his family. Taj agreed after being persuaded by one of his brothers, who stated that their family did not want the financial burden of raising 3 young girls, who would be no use to them in the future anyway. The following week, Kardar and my father, Jabrut, made the trip to Afghanistan where the meeting took place. My father told them at the gathering that as the children were all girls, they had no monetary value to them, and giving them back to their mother was the best idea for both families. The abuse towards Morsel and the children was not spoken about, and it was a taboo subject. Taj was having none of it and became irate. He retorted he would rather kill them all than return them to the mother. Taj's father, Ahmed, stood up and indicated to his son that he wanted a private word with him and his other sons. They all went to another room and after a short discussion returned. Ahmed remained standing and addressed both my grandfather and father. Ahmad said that he would instruct Taj to return with the children with the proviso that Morsel would give him another child, and that other child must be a boy. Also, that Morsel would never get the authorities or police involved at any time, and that Taj would live in the UK with them and provide for them. No matter what Taj thought about the situation, his instruction from his family would have to be obeyed. My grandfather and father agreed to the requests and left for the UK to tell Afsoon and Morsel of their agreement. Morsel had no choice but to accept, and she would never have dared go against her father's wishes. By that point, she would have agreed to anything to get her children back. She was warned by Afsoon to obey her husband and be a good wife, and not to ever mention again getting out of the marriage. The following month, Taj returned and they all lived in the family home. Meanwhile, Kardar, the head of the family, had been battling his own inner demons, struggling with mental health. And this is where I'm going to stop. As I've been looking into the situation of women in this country under this kind of government, and I would hope when I read this that these girls' life experiences would be unique. But it's not unique. This, from what I've been able to gather, is pretty much the way of life for women in Afghanistan under an extreme organization like the Taliban. I am providing a voice for Nicole by reading her work to you and sharing her life experience with you. My hope is to bring awareness to what women are going through and young girls are going through in countries like Afghanistan. And this is what these girls are facing now that the Taliban is back in charge. You're welcome, Nicole. You are welcome. And thank you for sharing it. Thank you for being so brave. So I'm going to ask you now to please share this video, to like this video, to give hearts and thumbs up to this video, and also to read Nicole's book and make yourself aware of what these women are facing and be a voice for the voiceless. God bless you until next week when we share more of Nicole's story. And I will be back live tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern with an all-new Bible study in the book of Ezekiel. God bless and love you much.